Welcome to another episode of The Wireless Way. I'm your host, Chris Whitaker, and I'm grateful that you're here today. As always, I know you have a lot going on. There's so much going on in business and technology. So thanks for checking out this episode. And I'm equally grateful for my guest, Pukar C Hamal. He's the founder and CEO of SecurityPal AI, which eliminates security assurance bottlenecks that stall enterprise deals for companies like OpenAI, Figma, and MongoDB. He's born in Kathmandu, raised in New York City, and now living in San Francisco. He built a profitable company with engineering talent from San Francisco and a 24/7 security assurance command center in Kathmandu, proving that world-class execution doesn't just require Silicon Valley overhead. He writes about capital formation and the economics of AI-era operations. Pukar, thanks for making time today, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad we got through the technical hiccups here, but excited to chat with you, Chris. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yes, it's always a pleasure to meet thought leaders and people moving the needle, advancing technology, advancing the conversation, if you will. And for your listeners, you think about the last dozen or so episodes, AI is definitely the common theme, right? You can't have a technology conversation today without AI in there somehow. And this is a really good one, a really unique one. We've talked about a lot of what's the real value of AI. Companies are calling me going, hey, Chris, I need to incorporate AI into my business. And I'm like, okay, like what part of your business, what technology? It's a broader conversation, right? AI by itself, it's not a product. It's not a SKU, if you will. It's an enhancement. I'm anxious to get your take on this. But before we get there, as always, what's not in the bio, Pukar? How did you get here?
Yeah, there's a lot not in the bio, considering it's
as is the case
long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think obviously I've had a very interesting journey on my way to building a AI technology company in Silicon Valley. I feel obviously very blessed to be able to do that. I was, as somebody that was born in Kathmandu, very grateful to have immigrated to this great country and growing up in New York City. And I moved up west basically in 2009 to enter Stanford. And then my journey to technology was really a result of realizing that the scale of technology, the technology as a lever, is just enormously powerful. You can have so much more impact, right? As a service worker, like a standard, like doctor, lawyer, or whatever my parents wanted me to be back in the day, you're like single-threaded in some ways in terms of how many people you can help. But with technology, you can go from helping tens and dozens, hundreds, thousands of people to actually helping millions of people, and the scale that it gives you is tremendous. And so realizing that early on, I think, was like a big unlock for me. And I've now lived in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley now for 16, 17 years. I think it's the most magical place. I think America is the best place to build anything, and I think Silicon Valley is probably the best place to do that if you don't have an existing network and want to enter a pool of like pure meritocracy. I think we have something akin to that here in Silicon Valley. Obviously, there's great hubs around the country. Atlanta, where you're based, is a great one too. We've got a lot of really amazing customers there, and I've always had this mission of taking some of this secret sauce that we have here of Silicon Valley and bringing it to other talent hubs around the world that could probably benefit from this. What I like to say is an operating system, a philosophy of building companies and playing the long game. And so I've been working with leaders in technology and others in Kathmandu, where I'm originally actually from, and trying to bring Silicon Valley to Kathmandu. And I famously like to say that our office is exactly 100 miles away from the top of Mount Everest, and we're championing a sort of Silicon Valley in the Himalayas that we're calling Silicon Peaks, very apropos, given the tremendous backdrop of the Himalayas that exist just a few hundred miles away from the capital. Yeah.
Oh, that is fascinating. I love that Silicon Peaks, and that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, that helps people kind of understand where is Kathmandu, or what's the relation there. But have you always been a techie? Would you say? Was there a time in your early adulthood, or even maybe going back into being a young man? Have you always had this interest in technology?
Yeah, I think it's impossible not to be fascinated and in awe of how much technological progress we've made. Just so, I was born basically right after the Berlin Wall fell, right? Like I was born in 91, and we look at going from 91 to today in my mid-30s, for people that want to do the math. And where I was born, where I grew up, I was born in Kathmandu. Kathmandu, obviously, most capital city, most advanced city for Nepal, but I actually grew up in rural Nepal, where there was no like electricity or indoor plumbing, and we were like really farming rural lifestyle. And I always like to say I've experienced like probably 200 plus years of technological progress in like 3 plus decades that I've been blessed to be on this incredible planet. And I feel that has drawn me to, wow, there's so much. When I was young, I used to look at like planes in the sky and wonder if I would ever ride in one. And now I travel back. I put 110,000 miles down last year. I was looking at my Flighty app, and so in the air, and your technology is incredibly fascinating to me. Always has been. I never thought I was going to build a tech company, but I think that's a little bit of a surprise that I ended up there. I don't think it was really like a desire for me to go build a company, but I think a lot of it just comes from realizing and having great mentors that shared with me that anything is possible if you're willing to work hard, especially in this country. And so, yeah, really grateful about that.
Yeah, that's great. What a great story, man. Have you ever thought about writing a book? You're right. To go from rural Nepal, no energy, no electricity, no indoor plumbing, to just moving to New York City and now San Francisco and now a tech company. You have perspective. You have a deep perspective that so many people probably can't even begin to really grasp. I don't know if that's a stretch, but it seems that way to me. Like for me, from my background, I spent 10 years in the Army. I never thought I would be in technology, but I've always been a gadget guy. I've always loved different technology, how it can make life better. I've always been a big student of efficiency and effectiveness, which is all about your company. I think your company really helps businesses become more efficient and effective, and we're going to talk about that. But no, it's a fascinating story. Thanks for sharing that, man. I really appreciate it.
And thank you for your service. It's tremendous. Thank you.
Oh yeah, no, my pleasure. People like you were worth it, man. It's funny, when I joined, I didn't really know if I thought of it that way, but back to your point, there's society in general. There's always a great community of people doing amazing, great things. Yes, unfortunately, because of human nature, there's always a component of people not doing the right things and all. But I think, generally speaking, we all are more alike than different. We all just want a fair break. We want a fair chance. We want a roof over our head. We want food in our stomach. We're all more alike than different. And I do my best not to focus on the differences and try to embrace what we have in common and just respect. Hey, we're not always going to agree, but we can still be friends.
Right.
Yeah, thank you for that. And so pivoting a little bit, one of my favorite words, for listeners that may not know SecurityPal AI yet, what problem were you seeing in the market that made you say, this has to be fixed? And how did that lead to founding the company?
Yeah, I didn't think that I was going to build a company in the cybersecurity assurance space. I was previously co-founder of an HR tech company. It's a human resources technology company, circa 2016, 2017, when I joined that founding team. And we were building recruiting technology that was powering some of the biggest companies in the world in their recruiting efforts, companies like Uber and Lyft and Allstate. And as we were selling our product more and more upmarket, more and more to enterprises, after 2018, we started seeing more and more of these security, compliance, assurance related questions in the sales cycle, right? Like a lot of times people want to know about, okay, does your product have this feature or that feature? Like how efficient is it going to make us? What does the ROI look like? There were a lot of these questions about product and features. But after 2018, we started seeing a lot of questions about security stuff, like how do you encrypt data? Where is it stored? Who has access? Are you doing pen tests, firewalls, all these different types of questions? And I realized that there was a new legislation that was passed in Europe called the GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, which is effectively like a data privacy regulation. And the gist of it is because the internet had eaten away at so much of what we do, right? The famous quote from Mark Andreessen, software's eating the world, right? And because software was so effective and efficient at eating the world over the past few decades, it had created a lot more risks in the internet era for our data, for our healthcare data, personal data, personally identifiable sensitive information about who we are. And that had increased the threats online. And so when companies were when two companies wanted to work together, it wasn't just enough for you to figure out how you were going to pay for the tool and whether the tool was going to work. You actually had to figure out if the tool was secure or not. And it was a new sort of like hurdle you needed to cross in your journey of selling your product. And so as a result of that, what I realized is, wow, we got to get through this problem, this challenge. And the way that the initial problem showed up was effectively like a security questionnaire. You had to fill out these massive security questionnaires. And there wasn't a good way of filling it out. You had to like literally sit down and open the spreadsheet and fill it out manually. And it would take like days, hours. You don't know what the answers are. You don't even know what the questions are asking sometimes. And that was really, what I like to say is every problem, if you look at problems as problems, you're not really going to get anywhere. But if you look at problems as an opportunity, then, the paths open up. And so I really saw that as an opportunity. I was like, okay, here's a challenge. And so that was really the spark that sort of lit the match eventually for SecurityPal, which was realizing in my previous company that I ran into this problem. And then eventually realizing that other leaders in technology, other sort of mentors of mine or former colleagues of mine were also running into similar problem. And that's what led me to sign my first customer. Before I'd even incorporated my company, they were interested in working with me. And so that's how I knew there was product market fit underneath here. And as we turn the pages on the company, now we process over 10,000 questionnaires. There's hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars of revenue that depends on SecurityPal uptime. When companies like OpenAI, Figma, MongoDB, Descript, Superbase, when all these companies are distributing their incredible products out there, SecurityPal is here and helping those incredible enterprises accelerate the way in which they demonstrate assurance to those customers, because they do have best-in-class security. There's a difference between having best-in-class security and assurance posture, security posture, and then being able to effectively communicate it to customers in the market and regulators. And there's a tremendous amount of work that needs to be done in that journey, and we effectively help make that happen in a much smoother way. And so we've obviously moved beyond just security questionnaires to helping companies with vendor assessments. It's not just when you're selling your product. You also have to ask the similar types of questions and concerns when you're purchasing products and tools. And then there's also other assurance work that has come up, like audits and all types of different regulations that are coming up around the world. Like there's 160 plus different countries that have their own sort of version of GDPR and data privacy regulations and industry standard regulations. And so the market is massive in terms of how do you demonstrate assurance during that commercial transaction on both the buy and sell side, and we effectively help accelerate that. Yeah.
Wow. Where do you think we are in terms of the market that you're serving? How mature is this market?
Yeah, on the security assurance side, I think we're still in the very early innings, and I think it's getting earlier and earlier in the sense that in a normal baseball game, as time goes on, you move up in the innings. But here, technology is moving so quickly that you might actually be going from inning 2 to inning 1 because the
next game.
Yeah, no, in the sense that the problems are compounding faster than technology's ability to solve it, and so the game is actually stretching in that sense. Hopefully, my analogy isn't breaking down, but if you're in inning 4 or 5, you're maybe halfway through a baseball game. But here, if you're in inning 4 or 5, you might go from inning 2 to inning 5, but you might actually be going from 40% of the game to 20% of the game, just because the complexity is growing.
But yeah,
compounding at such a large scale.
Are you saying maybe by doing the due diligence and going through the process, you're identifying new problems? I mean, you're exposing new vulnerabilities. I do agree with that. But the more you dig into something, you start to find that it's more complex of a problem than you originally thought. And then even in my world, we talk to companies all the time. It starts out with they just need a simple question about how to secure their mobile devices in an MDM conversation, but then it goes down these different rabbit holes.
Yeah, networks are incredibly complex, and they operate in a world of factorial math, and so devices are exploding. The number of humans that are coming online is exploding. The number of humans that are, the building applications, the number of applications are exploding. We're actually going to be going through, I don't even know if super cycle is an appropriate word for what's going to happen in the world of software. There is going to be an absolute just like Cambrian explosion times 10 in the world of software, just because of how easy it is to build software with the ChatGPTs, Claudes, and some of these other application builders that make it so easy to just open a terminal window and literally in natural language build an application from scratch. And so we're just in the very early stages of this unfolding. And when ChatGPT first came out, my initial thought was this probably overnight 10x the cybersecurity market. But I think I underestimated it. I actually think it's probably 100x or 1000x it over the course of the coming decades, just because security is this fundamental thing that we all need as humans to interact with one another. Without security, you're not going to leave your house. Right? You're just not going to do anything. You're just going to stay put. And so in order to power commerce, in order for us to have a commercial economy in which we are engaging with one another, in order to have a dynamic economy, you need a lot of people, businesses, and entities bumping into one another. Without security, that just doesn't happen. It just freezes things in place. And delivering security, providing assurance to businesses, to people, as businesses do transactions with one another, it's going to be even more important. But the threats, again, are just not much worse today. And if it used to be the case that the hackers of the world were, in some ways, hackers were constrained by your ability to code. So you actually had to learn how to code. You actually had to learn computers. And so you actually had to be smart enough, and you actually had to put energy and effort towards being a bad actor. But if you could hack systems in natural language, that increases the surface area of potential people that can actually hack, right? So it's not, you take everybody that has the intent to do something bad, and then in the old world, it was, okay, you have to have intent times skill to do something bad. But in this world where you can communicate with machines in natural language, you merely just need intent and ability to string together a bunch of tokens and words, and you can do tremendous damage. And that is incredibly risky in this new world that we're entering. And that's something that we're hoping we can play a small part in combating those risks for growing enterprises.
We'll be right back.
I'm excited to introduce you to a brand new partner to the show. This wasn't a company calling saying, hey, I want to advertise on your show, although I would be nice too. But more importantly, this is me calling them saying, hey, I believe in what you stand for. I believe in your product. I want you to advertise on the wireless way. And here we are. So I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to share it with you. And of course, I'm talking about Pure Talk, America's wireless company, whose CEO is a veteran and served a couple tours in theater. A wireless company who believes in creating American jobs, which is why their customer service is right here in Georgia, where I'm located. So pretty stoked about that. And here's the deal. Pure Talk is on America's most dependable 5G network, same towers, the same networks as the big guys, but here's the catch, man. It's half the cost. You can get unlimited talk, unlimited text, and 5 gigs of data for just $25. Now, there's other options, but I can tell you the average person is using around 5 gigs because you're on Wi-Fi most of the day. But if you need more, you can get more at great rates. Now, the average family saves almost $1,000 a year on their cell phone, and not to mention the savings for businesses at Pure Talk Business. You can keep your phone, you can keep your number, or just choose the latest iPhones and Androids available. So just go to puretalk.com to save on your wireless bill. Make the switch today at puretalk.com and join America's wireless company, Pure Talk. I believe you are. I believe you are. Do I have this right? 2 startups? You've been a part of 2 startup companies?
Yeah, the last one exited to another company, and I was an early employee, and my first startup was exited to Monster Jobs, Monster Worldwide, which was a big job board company back in the heyday.
That's right. I remember that
Super Bowl commercials back in the 90s, 2000s. But yeah, this is my third startup that I'm part of.
Third, okay.
Second that I've founded. Yeah.
So this next question I think is unique. This is a technology show in a lot of ways. So you've had a lot of experience around hiring talent, technology talent. That's why I love to ask the earlier question. It's like, have you always been a techie person? Because there's a lot of articles I've read that there's a shortage of technical people, talent. There's not enough young people that want to get into true behind the scene technology. Everyone wants to use technology, but not everybody wants to be a wizard behind the curtain, if you will. On that note, what's your opinion? What separates good technical talent from elite talent in today's market?
Yeah, I think in terms of technical talent, I think we do a disservice by making it seem like there's some sort of insurmountable barrier to being technically adept in some way or being technical talent. I think anybody can do it, really. I think being technically literate today the bar is incredibly low. Again, these technologies have made it so easy to be able to do that, right? And so, one, I don't think it's anything special to be a technically literate talent. I think to be great in any sort of part of it, it just requires practice and running into enough of the problems. And I think generally, like, being elite at something is just doing it over and over again such that you ran into all the edge cases. And if you have 1,000 hours of experience in something, you might have run into maybe 10 to 20, maybe even 100 edge cases that you can solve for. But somebody that has 10,000 plus hours of experience in something who's just ran into many more edge cases understands the total contours of that skill map in a way that somebody with less experience does not. And then, of course, I think that the only way to really get those reps and that time invested is you have to love what you do, and you have to be willing to do it even when it's not the most interesting thing to do. So I think for me, elite, what separates elite talent from just, let's just say, standard talent is really the experience, but the experience really comes from a willingness to learn and just spend time doing it, even when it's not interesting. And that can only happen when you really have a lot of passion and interest in the topic that you're trying to become an expert elite in.
Wait, as we're talking about talent and personnel and people and staff, another topic that comes up a lot with AI is it's going to take my job. So I got to ask your opinion on that. As you're looking at growing your company, are there jobs or roles at your company or other companies you're seeing that will be performed by an AI bot versus a human being? What's your thoughts on that?
My general thoughts on this is if you are incredibly comfortable in your job in the sense that you're used to doing the same thing over and over again, and you don't really have a desire to learn new things, and you're excited to just collect the paycheck for doing the same repetitive workflows and stuff like that, chances are that's going to get automated, because the more repetitive something is, the more predictable it is, the more predictive it is, the more decomposed it can be into steps that AI can just take over. And really, like, my advice to anybody in any industry is to not chase comfort and not drive towards spending a long period of time doing the same thing over and over again, but really chase complexity, chase tricky situations, chase problems. And that is where AI is not going to be super adept at handling, at least not for another. My core philosophy is I still think we're about 10 years away from what could be defined as AGI, although those timelines are extended. In some ways, I would say that if it showed me the AI of today 10 years ago, would I have thought it was AGI? I probably would have said yes. But that, in some ways, is how primitive my thinking of AI was back then. And also, I think in some ways we're anchored. Our AGI definition of artificial general intelligence and AI that can do everything and replace all of us is a little bit anchored by the jobs we all do, which seem fairly automatable. But the reality is we just have not been around long enough as a species to run into the really challenging problems. There's so many problems around the world today.
Yeah.
There's still like 30, 40,000 people that die from the flu every year, believe it or not. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, like all these diseases, all the sort of conflicts, resource constraints. So there's a tremendous amount of challenges that we're all facing. And I would say chase complexity and chase trickiness and problems. And that's like where all the opportunity is. And people should, and by the way, I think fear is a great motivator. And so I think if you're a little bit scared, concerned about your current disposition, it's a real good opportunity to assess what is it that you really want to do. And not all of us have the luxury. People have like families and homes to take care of and all these other things. And it's a tall order to ask people to reassess the skill set that they might have invested the last 10 to 20 years in building up. But the fundamental skill sets that are going to matter, though, are going to be how good are you at building human-to-human relationships?
That's good information about AI. I think we're all safe. I agree with you. There's another saying I love. AI is not going to take your job. Someone that knows how to use AI is more likely to take your job. So you got to be curious. You got to constantly be learning and growing with technology. But pivoting back to SecurityPal AI, why would a company work with you? Give me a specific example of what issues are you solving for them?
So we just launched a new product recently, which effectively gives our customers the same capabilities as like an FTE on their team. So our fundamental philosophy is that what most FTEs internally at companies did that was repetitive, rote, hackneyed, day-to-day work, that's all going to be done by AI. And so we built these concierge agents. Quincy, who's our questionnaire connoisseur.
I love all those names, by the way. I love how you named them all.
Yeah, Libby for knowledge library management, Vinny for vendor assess management. So we have all these agents, concierge agents, and there are hybrid agents. So they have a AI front end and UI, but the back end is really powered by people and our proprietary software and data that we've collected over the past 4 or 5 years. And it's like having a 24/7 team member that understands your needs, understands the problems you're looking to solve, and you could just assign the work to Quincy, assign the work to Libby, assign the work to Vinny, Tracy, like all these different agents that we've built, and they will just do it. And they will use the tools, they will get the context from the different tools, and they work 24/7, 365. This isn't 40-hour work FTE, right? And the individuals on the team, I think people shouldn't be afraid of that, because that's coming whether you want it or not. Like, that's just going to happen, and businesses are going to make decisions from an efficiency standpoint. What's really exciting, though, for our internal teams, the companies that we're working with, it's not replacing anybody. What it's allowing our customers to do is actually shift to chase complexity, like I talked about, right? To actually do the work that's truly complex, the human-to-human combat that you need to do, right? Doing customer-facing work, doing real-time triage, jumping on something that requires an extra perspective, more strategic thinking, weighing trade-offs with full context. Like, there's so much more work to be done within enterprises. And we hire incredibly talented people, by the way, with bachelors and masters and PhDs, and we hire people that can do like insane calculus or deeply understand human psychology or have been on the battlefield, like in your case, Chris, right? Like incredible, complex humans that are so skilled, and we put them in front of a computer to click buttons and fill out forms. There's so much skill set that we can mine from our existing workforce that is literally just stuck, is not getting exposure because they're spending most of their time facing software and facing forms and facing buttons and clicks and cells, where they could be like facing real challenges and helping businesses in much more compelling ways. So I'm really excited about that future, and that's really the vision with our concierge agents, which is, hey, hire our concierge agents. You're going to get a department for effectively the cost of an FTE. You'll get literally thousands of hours of productivity per week for cost of and less than an FTE. And then the folks that you have hired on your team that are incredibly skilled can go work on much more challenging problems and driving growth for the business. And so we're really excited about this future, and that's what we're mainly working on. Yeah.
No, I love that. That's something to be excited about. Using technology to make us more efficient, more effective, get more work done. And I agree with you. It's great to have the bots to do the grunt work, if I could call it. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's that repetitive, just grunt work. But you still need that employee, that person that, has the compassion, has the empathy, that understands the client. You still need that person to quality control check it, if you will. It's almost always at least 99%.
That's right.
But
That's right. AI is not 100% of the way there, just like you said, right? Like, you need the quality checks. AI is going to run into tremendous amount of edge cases and corner cases. AI is not going to be able to weigh the trade-offs of this customer who's might be a little bit more important than this other customer because they're going through something that this other customer is not going through. Only you have that context because you had dinner with the customer last night and it was a really deep conversation, and AI is not going to have that context, right?
Right.
There's a lot of data in the real physical world that AI is not going to have context on. That is the opportunity in the surface area for humans to skate freely on. And we should really leave behind the day-to-day clicking and paper chasing that we all do, because that is just not what humans were put on this planet for.
That's right. We're very social beings. We still need that social interaction, and and we have to focus on that. I think that's smart companies are the ones that embrace that concept. Pukar, it's been a great conversation. I know we've covered a lot. Definitely check the show notes. I'll have links to learn more about SecurityPal AI and Pukar and his team. Is there anything we didn't cover? Anything you want to go over? Any last words you want to leave us with?
I think a lot of leaders are going to hear a lot more about AI, and there's going to be a lot of concern. And what I think I would say is the more things change, the more they stay the same. And so let's think about what are the things that are not going to change? We still have 8 billion people on the planet, and we still have tremendous problems and challenges that we need to solve. From all the diseases, from all the sort of conflicts, we still have a whole universe that we need to explore. We don't even know that much about our own moon. We haven't even been to Mars yet. And so I always think about one day maybe I'll go visit my grandkids or something like that in their Martian colony. You know? I hope to be able to do that one day. That was like the types of dreams that I have. From rural Nepal to one day setting foot on Mars to visit my grandkids, because that's where they live.
It'd be nice if we could teleport. It'd be nice if we could teleport by that point.
Who knows? There's a lot of really incredible light sail technologies that allow us to move much faster. I don't put anything past human ingenuity. I think the thing that we don't want to be, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. And don't let this sort of like concern about AI paralyze you. This technology is actually much more accessible than people think it is. It's incredibly easy to learn. And if you don't know how to learn it, you can literally ask it, hey, because I tell AI all the time, I'm like, I'm too dumb to know this. Like what I'm trying.
How do I do this?
Yeah, how do I do that? I'm too stupid. I don't know. Please explain. Explain it to me like I'm 5 years old. One of my favorite prompts is to just say, hey, Eli 5 quantum computing, or Eli 5 some geopolitical event or something like that. And it's just incredibly powerful at explaining those tools, and you can talk to it. So I think it's never been easier to start and get started on these technologies. And again, it's okay if you're bad at it in the beginning. Everyone is bad when they're learning something new. I was shocked to find out I'm a top 0.01% ChatGPT user. I feel like I'm barely using it. I feel I'm so bad at AI, actually, compared to some of the other folks that I'm using. But turns out I'm better than a lot of the people out there in terms of my experience. And so just don't be afraid of the technology. Use it, learn it, and realize that like the planet is an incredibly big place that's incredibly complex. And as long as you're chasing complexity with good intent, in putting honest effort to learn new skills and up level, and you're asking the right questions from the management team, and you're talking to your boss and talking to your peers about how you can solve this problem in a better way. I don't think, those are fundamentally good behaviors, no matter what the time scale was. There were good behaviors to do 20 years ago, 30 years ago. They're going to be good behaviors to do 10, 20 years into the future. So I'm incredibly bullish on humanity and our ability to get through this.
I agree with you 100%. That's some great words to end on. Be curious, learn. And it's something you said about you're surprised that you're rating in ChatGPT. One thing I've learned, the more you learn about a topic, the more you realize you really don't know that much about it. You know more than the average person, but you also have a knowledge of what a delta there is of what a true expert is. So I live that life every day.
Expertise is realizing how little you really know about something.
Yes, it's very humbling.
Mastery, yeah, exactly.
But it gives us something to work toward, right? That fuels our fire. That's what to try to add value. I think learn new skills so you can always add value to your colleagues, your customers, your friends, your family, and you will go far in life if that's the goal. Is how can I add value? So, again, thanks for adding value to us today. I've really enjoyed our conversation. Thanks again, man. Check the show notes, guys. There'll be ways to get a hold of Pukar and his team. Thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I'm glad we're able to get through this.
Thank you, Chris, and wonderful chatting with you again. And hopefully we can record another one that'll be much smoother.
That's right. That will be our plan. And folks, there you go. Another episode of The Wireless Way. And as always, if any part of this struck a nerve, or you thought about a colleague, you thought about a customer, share this episode with them. Check the show notes again. Please look further into SecurityPal AI. This is where we're going, folks. It's not the future, it's now. Again, grateful to Pukar and his team joining us and being available. Check out the website, thewirelessway.net, and I'll see you on the next episode of The Wireless Way. That was a fantastic conversation with Pukar, but what you don't know, due to the magic of editing, we had a lot of technical problems, and just a minute of some of the excerpts and takeouts. It was a great time. I appreciate Pukar being a good sport and hanging in there with me. So check these out. Gosh, I'm going to edit that part out too. This has probably been the most interesting episode I've recorded in 5 years. I apologize.
We way through it, we found our way through it. Right?
That's right.
Like, this is, I think this is good commentary on how human jobs are not going to be taken. Because why is it that we have all this technology but nothing works?
It seems that way.
And that gives me a lot of hope for humanity.
It does. It does. All right, man. Whew. That was, like I said, that was rough. I'm sorry about that, man.
That's all right. We've been through a lot.
Imagine the power of a single cell phone, just one small device destined for more than just calls. I'm talking about cell phones for soldiers. Your retired phone can be a lifeline for veterans and heroes truly in need. Since 2004, this remarkable nonprofit has transformed over 25 million donated phones into more than 450 million free minutes for service members and veterans, reconnecting them with the voices that mean the most. Your donation is kindness in action, reducing electronic waste and empowering those who served. Each device helps fund urgent communication, calling cards, and programs that rebuild connections, restore hope, and unlock new opportunities for veterans. Check the drawer. Your unused phone could make an extraordinary difference. Simply send it in or drop it off at one of the thousands of locations nationwide and give someone the chance to reach loved ones. Visit cellphonesforsoldiers.com today, because even a single device can spark life-changing connections for veterans all across the country. That's cellphonesforsoldiers.com.